Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out the ELEGOO Neptune 3 Plus. So this is quite a large 3D printer, and if it's anything like the Neptune 3 Pro, I think this thing's going to be awesome. So in this video we're going to unbox it, set it up, and do some prints. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Let's get started. Alright, so this is the Neptune 3 Plus, and the box that it comes in is very large in this dimension here, which is about 28 inches and 24 inches deep and about 10 inches tall. And the shipping label says 16 kilograms, which is about 34 or 5 pounds. So on the box we got a picture of what it looks like, the name here, and not too much more to see. So let's go ahead and open it up. And so we are packed with this dark soft foam. And this is what we see on top. So because everything's so large, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the layers out and go through them one by one. And hopefully you'll be able to see a little better here how everything is packed. So right on top we have this notice for use, and it kind of goes over the more important things that need to be installed and adjusted, and also bed leveling, and we'll go through all this in the video. We got the user manual, the machine parameters, all the parts that are included, and step-by-step instructions on how to put it together, adjust it, bed leveling, and also using the software. Alright, so we got quite a few things on top. I'm just going to pull them out one by one. So this looks like the screen holder, and it is magnetic. We got our power cord, which is US type, and it looks like about 4 feet. Our spool holder, which consists of 2 pieces, and this is a top mount, and this piece here just threads into the main part. So yeah, it could go on one side or the other. And here we have a bag with lots of parts in there, and we'll go through this in a second. So there's a lot of little pieces of foam. And on the side here we have the 2 rods, and these are going to stabilize the top of the gantry, which is really nice, especially for this large format. And now we can pull out our gantry, which is the upper portion of the printer. And this is definitely a pretty large piece. Go ahead and get this out of the way. And you guys can see we have dual Z-axis motors, 2 rods, and they are tethered here on top with this belt, which is really nice to see. We got 4 rollers on the hot end. It is a direct drive extruder that's built in all in one. Very nice. And you guys can see the design here. We got some wording that says create the future, and very nice clean channels everywhere with this kind of blue color. I definitely love the look. So we're going to go a little more detail later. Let's go ahead and go to the bottom layer, which is going to be the base. Again, lots of foam. And actually, we do have our screen there that was tucked away there on the edge. And this is pretty nice portable touchscreen display, which is about 4.3 inches looks like. And it does have a cable that unplugs, which is pretty cool because, you know, you could replace this if you needed to. And it does stretch, which will make it easy to use it. Yeah, I really like the screen, as the Pro also has this, and it works really good. So on the base, you guys can see we have a very large build plate, and it is the PEI sheet that is flexible. So it's a metal sheet with a PEI finish on top, and this works very well. And it's definitely the best of all worlds, as it is removable, it's flexible, so you can pop larger prints off a lot easier. And also the PEI sticks very well when it's hot, and then the prints pop off quite easy when it cools off. So I'm gonna move this away separately because we don't want to touch it with our greasy hands. And we'll go ahead and pull the base out. And wow, this thing is quite large and got a good weight to it. So yeah, very nice looking, quite thin on the profile, and got a pretty interesting finish here all around. So we're going to take a closer look at all the details after we assemble everything. So let's go ahead and move this away. And that is everything for the packaging. And as you guys saw, everything is packed very well. So let's go ahead and bring our base back in. I'm gonna flip it around very carefully here. And what I wanna do next is take this cover off the bottom so we can see what's underneath. So I can already see there's a fan here and some venting. We got our motor here for the Y-axis and pretty large squishy rubber feet on 4 corners. And so we're gonna need an Allen wrench to take all these little bolts out. So let's go ahead and go through this bag and see what's in here. So we get a little roll of PLA sample filament. Yeah, this is pretty small, but I guess good to have it, you know, for a little test. So here's something important. This is our filament detector that we'll have to install. We also get some snippers, and these are nice to cut filament on an angle. We also get this spatula here that could be useful. We got a USB cable to connect from the printer to the computer, some zip ties, a clean out needle, and this is for the nozzle if it gets clogged. It looks like some spare parts, like a couple nozzles, a PTFE tubing, and also a USB adapter with micro SD card in there. And here we have a bag that has all of our hardware to put the printer together. And most importantly, our tools that consist of a couple open-ended wrenches, a Phillips and flat screwdrivers, and a set of Allen wrenches. So let's grab the one we need and remove all these little silver bolts on the bottom plate. All right, so I finally got all the screws out, and let's go ahead and raise this thing up. And we do have a fan here connected, and we can actually unplug it, and we'll set this to the side. All right, and this is what we see underneath. So yeah, everything's laid out pretty well. All the wires are routed nicely. So this is our main board, and it is the ZNP Robin Nano DW version 2.2. We do have an ARM processor. The stepper drivers are integrated, and they are heat sinked. Everything is hot glued, and all the wires are nicely crimped, and everything looks great. So going to our power supply, it is 500 watt, 24 volt, which is pretty powerful. And this is our input from the AC, and then output to this thing, regulator of some sort, and then it goes out to the bed. So yeah, again, all the connections look good and nicely crimped. This is our Y motor here, and our power input comes here from the side. So everything is metal under here. We also have these support channels that go across, and yeah, everything quite heavy duty. So I'm going to go ahead and put the lid back on. We'll flip it around and start the assembly. All right, so the first step in the manual, we're going to connect the upper portion to the base, and there are 2 screws on each side, 4 total, and they are M5 45s. So let's grab a little baggie with hardware, and here we can see every part is labeled, and these are what we're looking for, and they are the 4 long black bolts. So if we look at the base, you can see there's like a little cutout here on the side, and it's like that on both sides. And the gantry will sit here, then the bolts will go through the bottom. So I'm gonna grab a spool and set it underneath the printer to kind of hold it up so we can reach underneath. I'm not sure how well this angle is, guys, but I think you get the point here. So we're gonna grab the upper portion, and with the lettering to the front, we're gonna set it over right into these grooves here. So, and it kind of sits there on its own. You do have to hold it somewhat, as it is quite tall and unstable. But yeah, we're just going to run the bolts down from the bottom into this channel here. But yeah, I'm just going to run these down now. And also, you can go off the edge of the table. That might make things a little easier also. So whatever way you got to do it, just run these down. But don't tighten them yet, as we do have to start the other side. Let's flip it around and do the same thing on this side. So don't tighten this side either, and the reason for that, what we want to do is bring the x-axis down to the bottom. And the reason for that is because we want the spacing here to be as close as possible where this is going to spend most of its time. So you can just turn the coupler, or you can use the belt up here to go faster and just turn that. And so we're going all the way down. And now we can tighten these bolts underneath. That'll kind of solidify the distance between the 2 channels and where they need to be. So yeah, this might be, a little bit of a overkill on the detail, but every little bit helps. If you get it all pretty close, you're gonna have really accurate motions in all the axes. We want to snug this up reasonably well to the other side and tighten this up. And that's how you install the upper portion to the base. So for step 2, we're going to be installing the screen holder to the side of the printer, and we're going to need 3 M420 bolts, and that's these guys right here. On the bracket on the back, you can see there's 3 holes, and that's where these bolts will go through into the side of the channel on the right side if you're looking at it. And maybe you guys can see the holes there with the threads. I'm going to start a bolt, and obviously with the slip going down, I'm going to install it here on the side. So there is a magnet here on the holder, so it kind of fights with you a little bit, but it's not that big of a deal, I guess. Just tries to grab the wrench for me. But yeah, we're just going to tighten up these 3 bolts, and I'm going to snug them up just a little bit. Don't go too tight. But yeah, simple as that. The holder is on. So let's flip this to the front. And now for step 3, we're just going to install the screen on the holder and plug it in. So the screen is pretty large. You can see it in my hand. And we have, looks like some kind of magnetizing section here. And then a wire that plugs in into it. And the other end goes into the printer. So yeah, the screen will literally sit here and it magnetizes. And we're going to plug that right here on the front. Just like that. So pretty simple. So for step 4, there's quite a few things going on here. We're going to install the spool holder on top, then also the filament detector onto the spool holder. And also there's a little wire holder bracket that we got to install on the back, but we're going to do that when we plug everything in. So we're at the very top and there's a little wire here that comes out. This is for the detector, and I'm not sure you guys can see, but inside the channel there's a couple sliding nuts. Let's see if I can tilt this a little bit over. There you go. So we're going to have to line that up with the spool holder like this. And the bolts we need are M418, 2 of them. And so you're gonna kind of have to eyeball it, but it shouldn't be too bad, as when you start one, you could still move it around and hit the other one. There we go. So yeah, not difficult at all. Now to be centered, you might want to offset a bit, but if you do, then your wire is not gonna reach the detector probably. So yeah, maybe we'll just kind of go to the side like this. And the spool holder part is actually on the wrong way. It needs to go the other way. And the reason for that is because the detector is on this side. And you guys can see how that's not very centered now at all. It's more to that side. So let's grab the detector. And there's a bolt in there. And this is what it looks like. I like how they put brass fittings at the end, as it won't wear out. And this is where it plugs in. So this part swivels around. So all we got to do is install this bracket here with this bolt onto the side of the spool holder. And if I turn it, you guys probably can see here, there's another brass threading there that the bracket will install into. So yeah, again, pretty straightforward here with the installations. And once we tighten it pretty snugly, this can all move around. So now we can plug it in just like that, and there we go. So this appears to be about right where it needs to be, and so I think we'll leave it right here. All right, so for the next part, we're going to be installing the support braces on the back. We're going to have M48 bolts on the top and M420s on the bottom, also with a washer. And so these are the rods. They're pretty lightweight, and each end has like this little eye bolt that our bolt will go through, and also a nut. And it is threaded, and they're both the same on each side. So you will need to break the nut loose so we can adjust it. So we're just gonna untighten it, and now we can spin this around. And we're gonna do that on both sides. And so the way this mounts is there's a thread in here in the frame that this will go to, and then the other side goes here on this little frame piece here, outside of it like this. And this is the packet that has all of our hardware. 2 smaller bolts and 2 larger ones, and a couple washers. So the small one will go on top. I'm gonna go ahead and start it. And then our larger bolt in the washer, to demonstrate here, we'll go like this. The bolt first, and then the washer, and then this against the frame. So the washer's there to kind of fill in the gaps that are in the frame. So yeah, bolt, washer, and then into the frame. Now this part might get a little tricky because you might need to go a little bit shorter or longer, which you can adjust it, and it might be smarter to do the bottom first than the top, but either way you got to do it. That's how it all goes together. So mine actually was lined up pretty close, so I'm pretty happy there. And so what I'm going to do now is tighten the 2 bolts. Now make sure when you do tighten this that your rod is not under stress, meaning like you don't want to pull one side down or something. Like it has to line up pretty much perfect. So if you have to, adjust it where it's completely neutral and happy, and then tighten it. And then after that, we can tighten these nuts to lock it all in. I'll tighten that one and then the bottom. And that's how these rods go on. So now I'm going to do the other side. And so for our last step, which is 6, we're just going to connect all of the wiring. So we're looking here from the back on this corner, and there's a bunch of things that need to be plugged in here. So there's a couple wires coming down from the top. They are the filament detector and the LED light, and that's these 2 wires here. And then the large plug here plugs into the Z-axis motor. So we'll plug that in, and then we'll plug in the filament detector, which is the black one, and the LED, which is the red and black. So yeah. Pretty simple there. So we got a pretty large ribbon cable here coming from the bottom up. About midway, we got 2 wires which says X on them, a larger one and a smaller one. The larger one's going to go to the motor, which is right here, and the smaller one's going to go to the end stop switch. So let's go ahead and plug those in, and end stop switch is on this side here. So now we have the rest of the wire, and on the end of that we have the plug that plugs into the hot end. This should go right here through this brace and the back of the channel, and this is where we're going to install this wire bracket that goes right here. The way you do it is you just kind of pinch this and you put the holder right through it like this, and without pinching the wire where it's loose, you can actually move it. So for some odd reason I already had a bolt in there. I'm going to remove that and use the one that came with the bracket. Yeah, and just like that, routes the wire very nicely. And then this part here goes to the front, and we're going to plug it in right here. And there's a couple tabs that we got to open up on the hot end and then plug it in. And also there's a relief bracket here, which you can go ahead and go into first, or you can plug it and then go into it. But I think it would be easier to go ahead and plug it first. So let's plug it in, and then these clips will kind of bite around it. And now we can squeeze the flat wire into the relief bracket, and just like that. And so if we go to this side all the way, we can see we have enough cable here. And if you need a little more, you can pull on it, or if you need less, you can push it back. So there is one more wire or cable that we need to plug in. There's going to be the other Z axis here on this other side. And that's it right there. So yeah, let's go ahead and pull this foam out of the build plate. And as simple as that, everything is plugged in and assembled. So for the next part, we need to check a few things and adjust them. And we're going to start here with the build plate. So this might be easier to do it before you build it all. But essentially what we're doing here, I'm going to raise this up just a little bit so we can see a little better, is we're checking the rollers underneath the bed. The way this printer runs is there's 2 channels here, and there's 3 wheels on each side of the bed that run around it. And so there's 3 stationaries and 3 adjustables. And so what we need to do, move that screen out of the way and lift this up. Maybe you guys will see a little better here, but yeah, we have 1, 2, 3 rollers, and 2 of them on this side are adjustable and the center one is not. And then the center one on the other side is adjustable and the 2 are not. So it's a little tricky, but not that bad, because all we got to do is just go under there and spin the roller. So if it's too loose, that means it needs to be tight. The back one is definitely loose. The middle one is actually decent, and the front one is also completely loose. So let's go ahead and start with tightening the very back one, and this is the wrench we use. We're just going to turn that eccentric nut in there. And so the amount you want it to be tight is where the roller has enough friction on it while you spin it in one spot, like a little burnout. So if it's too loose, the bed will probably wobble, and if it's too tight, it'll wear out the roller. So what you're looking for is just kind of like a slight drag. So that's actually pretty decent. Let's check the middle one again. So the middle one is good too. Now we're going to go to the front one here, and it's too loose. So let's tighten that just a little bit. And that's a lot better now, and it feels like they're all pretty good. So, and the bed moves around really smooth, and it doesn't wobble. So I think it's still a little bit too loose, especially here on the back when I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit. And so the way you want to tighten this side that has the 2 is where the middle one will also grab, because if you tighten them too much, both of them, the middle one will just be loose since this one's not adjustable. So that's the tricky part a little bit. You kind of have to balance in between the 2 sides. So I'm going to go to the other side. We'll kind of roll these around and check. And I definitely need to tighten the center one, but it's actually quite hard to get to because we have, surprisingly, 1, 2, 3 adjustable leveling knobs on just the one side. So I think what I need to do is see if I can just pull the whole knob off. So careful, there is a spring in there. You don't want to take the nut out completely, just the knob. And now we can get to our eccentric nut there. So yeah, it does require a little bit of extra work here to get these rollers right, but you definitely want to do this, because if you don't, you're not going to be rolling perfect. So yeah, now we feel really good on all 6 rollers, and we have no wobble and smooth traveling. So I'm going to put this knob back on, and it's not hard to take it off at all. Just maybe a little tedious as spaces are a little tight in there. There we go. So we're good there. And we're done adjusting the bed. Now another thing that you might want to check is this belt. And we have a knob here up front where we can adjust the tension. So it's way too tight here. So I'm going to loosen mine a bit. And that'll, relieve some pressure from this belt. Now because this bed is so large and the belt is long, you don't want to make this too loose. Don't over tighten it either. So if you start to hear like notes playing, that's way too tight. But yeah, this feels pretty good now. And I'm pretty happy with the Y-axis. So let's go to our hot end next. And we can see here in the back, we got 4 rollers. They're actually adjusted pretty much perfect. So Actually, maybe not too perfect because this wheel here doesn't want to spin at all. It's kind of tight. So the ones on the bottom are adjustable and these are stationaries. Yeah, this one feels good, but this one is a little tight. So we're going to loosen that a bit. Okay, that's too much, just a little bit. And there we go. So now all of our wheels are perfectly adjusted as they all have a nice tension to them when you roll them on one spot. So that's the key there. And we're going to check, make sure everything is smooth, and it feels very smooth. So if you got any kind of funny stuff going on, make sure your wheels are not too tight. And also your belt is not too tight or misaligned. Now you can't really see the belt at all, but you do have an adjuster here. You can loosen and tighten the belt. Again, my belt was a little tight, so I'm going to loosen it just a bit. And be careful trying to tighten it without feeling it, because here you can't tell anything, but the belt could be getting pretty tight, so you don't want to over tighten it. Yeah, that feels really good. So we do have rollers here also on the Z plane on both sides, and mine are actually perfectly fine. They all kind of spin. But if you do need to adjust yours, say they're binding or they're way too loose, the adjustments are here on these inside wheels, and the outside two are just stationary. Now, don't worry too much if it's not perfect, because the Z travels very slowly, and also we do have dual Z screws, so you know everything is very well controlled up and down. And sometimes you can't get all this perfect anyway, so if it's close, just leave it the way it is and you should be good. And with that, we are done putting the printer together and adjusting it all. All right, so let's take a closer look at the ELEGOO Neptune 3 Plus. So this is a pretty large printer, as you guys can see. It takes quite a bit of room. It pretty much takes my whole table, and also very tall. And so measuring it out here, we got about 24 inches deep and about 24 inches wide. And with the spool on, you'd probably need 34. So yeah, very large printer, so make sure you have the room for it. All right, so let's start here on the top. So we got the spool holder. We mounted it here on these two bolts, our filament detector. So the spool will go on here, and then the filament through the detector, and then out down to the direct drive extruder hot end assembly. So all the channels are very nicely finished. They're smooth. Got the logo there. Nice graphics on the sides. We got metal brackets on top, and for the lead screws there's also bearings, very nicely constructed. This is our brace here that we installed. So flipping around and looking from the back, you guys can see we have our synchronizing belt between the two leads. The wiring from the detector goes right here, and also under the channel we have lighting. So going down, our ends on the X rail here are all metal on both sides. This is where our cable bracket that we installed connects. Very nice and organized. The hot end from the back side, the four wheels. You can kind of see the heat break there, the heat block, which has a silicone sock, and then our parts cooling fan on both sides. So it has two of them that blow underneath. Also looks like our Z-axis sensor here. So this is a multi-purpose sensor for the limit on the Z and also for out of bed leveling. So going down from there, you can see our Y-axis channels. There's two of them. The belt, the Y and stop switch, and not too much here. We got the two motors for the Z on each side. This is where we plugged in detector and the LED light. Our mount for support rods. Going to the back is pretty clean. We got this cable coming out to the bed, and it is strain relieved. And not too much going on here. And we got pretty large squishy rubber feet on each corner. Back around to the front, we can see our cable coming in here to the hot end extruder. This is where you're going to put in your filament. This is to release the extruder arm. We got a little gear here that you can see when it's turning. This whole piece here is plastic, nicely molded. We got a little ELEGOO logo, the two cooling fans on both sides. And probably in here somewhere we have the parts cooling fan, and that's what it looks like underneath. So there are a couple little bolts that we can loosen, and this whole piece should come out. And you guys can kind of see maybe a little better what's inside. So we have the extruder motor, the whole extruder mechanism there. That little bolt you see right there is the tensioner for the extruder. We got a little board there in the back with a bunch of wiring, and our sensor here, not too much to see. And underneath here we can see this is the fan for the parts cooling, which is an axial one. It's quite large too. And then the two parts cooling fans inside the shroud. So yeah, very nice build quality and attention to detail. All right, so this is back, and you can get to that little adjusting bolt through this hole here. So yeah, if we go to this side, we got the end stop switch. And then our motor here for the X-axis, it's all enclosed, and this is where it plugs in here. So I wish there was a little cutout somewhere where you can see if our belt is running true on the gear. And going to the other side, same thing, it's all enclosed. This is our tensioner here for the belt. Again, I wish there was a little cutout. But yeah, as long as this feels smooth, it should be fine. All right, so going down from there, we have the main attraction here, which is this build plate, and it's huge. So it's 320 by 320 and 400 tall. So you can print quite large projects on here. So this is a PEI sheet, which is awesome to see that it's here. So these work great, and it is a steel sheet that's magnetic. Got a little logo here and a tab to grab it. And it comes off quite easy. It is like a reflective material on the other side, and it magnetizes to the main bed, which is magnetic. So really happy with this. The only thing maybe I wish is that there were some kind of brackets in the back where it's easier to line it up and put it down, because it's so big and it's hard to hit it just right on the bed itself. So going below that, we've got the two rails like we saw, the belt here. It adjusts here. Again, you cannot see nothing. It's all enclosed. You can kind of peek here through the front and see the gear. Also, on the back there, you can see it. Yeah, it seems to be okay overall, and you can adjust the tension here on how much tightness you have. So looking underneath, you guys can see we have 3 adjustable knobs on each side, which is kind of crazy. And we also have 3 rollers on each side of the channels here. So our heating platform is the aluminum, and below that we don't have any insulation, which I'm a little surprised to see for how large this build plate is. It seems like it should have insulation. Yeah, the frame itself, I don't know if you guys can tell, is very thick. So I think much thicker than usual, at least what it looks like to me. Overall, seems like a really good design, and everything is very sturdy. And so on this corner here, we have the manufacturing label that gives us more information about the printer, which by the way weighs 14.2 kilograms. And also that's the machine size there in millimeters. So from there, going to the front, we just have a clean fascia here. And then we have a USB port here to connect to the computer, micro SD card slot, the plug for our screen, and the screen itself, which sits in this magnetic cradle. It's very nice. You can just grab it, use it, and put it down. The screen itself is quite bulky. Let's go ahead and take this protector off. I wish the bezels were a little smaller, but it's still pretty nice and should be quite useful being portable like that. So underneath, you guys can see the 3 bolts. We installed it to the side. And going to the back, we have our power button on and off. It is fused, and our power input port for the AC cord. And going this way, we don't have too much here, except our cable coming out there and going to the top. Now, the only thing I've noticed that I wish it would have had, which is some kind of storage, because there's nothing here and nothing anywhere else. So I'm not sure if the way the design was made, that was not possible or what. But yeah, I feel like it would have been great if it would have had some kind of storage bin somewhere. But yeah, other than that, it seems like a really nice printer. So for the next part, let's go ahead and plug it in, power it on, preheat the machine, home it, and level the bed. All right, so I got the cord plugged in. Go ahead and hit the power button. And it boots up. And there it goes. So it did take a few seconds there, but not too bad. So we're going to go over the menu in a bit. Let's go ahead and click on Prepare All Home. So we can see the printer homing. So we got the X, the Y, and the Z coming down. All right. So if we click on Temp, we have hot buttons to preheat. Let's click PLA, and it's going to preheat the nozzle to 250 on the bed. And the fans just kicked in, and it's actually a little bit louder than I would like because they're pretty pronounced. So I'm going to go to Settings and go to Advanced. And yeah, I was hoping to have this adjustment for the lighting because it seems a little bright for the video. So I'm going to turn it down here. Now be careful not to turn it down all the way as it completely disappears and turns black. So I think this is pretty good here. And we can see here right on the home page, our nozzle's pretty much at the temperature, and the bed's there too, so it preheated pretty quick, and it's hot. Wow, that was much quicker than I thought. It must be because of the high wattage power supply. All right, so for the next part, we're going to do bed leveling, and this kind of helps you out here to do it right. But I think the first thing we need to do is run these springs down, or these knobs on the bed. So what you want to do is compress the springs about halfway on all of them, and there's 3 on each side. And the reason you want to do this is because you want to have a good base to go off of up and down. So when you're compressed about halfway, you can go a little up or a little down. And now we're going to hit the level button, confirm. And it looks like it's homing again. And so here we have another menu, which gives us an offset, and we're -1 right now. Then we got manual and measure. And then below that, we got all of the parameters, which I think there's 49 of them, where it probes the bed. So because this bed adjusts, we need to go to the manual first. So let's click on that. So it's telling us we're going to need to adjust the distance with a piece of paper. And now it gives us the areas that we can go to by clicking on the number. So let's go to number 1 first. And we're going to grab this paper here, as the gap, and we're pretty low on this side, so let's go ahead and go up. And there it goes, starts to catch. So let's go to 2, which is the one right behind it. There we go. Now 3. So this one actually is too loose, so we need to tighten this one up more. Now we'll go to 4, which is this corner here. I guess I meant this one in the back. There we go. 5 and 6. And then in the middle we got home. And it's telling me that it's complete, but I know it's not because I need to go over it again. So click on cancel and do it again. And we'll go back to 1. Sure enough, I'm still loose here. And then yeah, we're just gonna do the same thing over again. And you're gonna do this as many times as you need until you get it pretty close. So the closer you get it, the less the out of bed leveling will have to compensate. So it does have a lot of points that it measures, but if you get it close, it's gonna be easier and better for the machine to offset very small amounts compared to large ones. And if they're too large, it could have some printing issues too. So yeah, get it as close as you can. And by the way, you can click the same button again to go back to that step. So yeah, once you're done, that's when you click the middle one, which is home. And another reason you want to go around a few times, at least 3, is because once you change one side, other sides kind of change too. So it's quite dramatic on such a large surface. All right, I think that's pretty good. It all feels the same all around. So I'm gonna go home. And it's a little tighter, but we can set the offset in the offsets later. So we're gonna confirm that we're done with that, and now it's going to do the out of bed leveling, which is a lot of points there, as you can see, and it's preheating right now. All right, there it goes. All right, so now it's taking a measurement, double tapping, and we can see here that we're on number 3 out of 49, which you can barely see that number there, but yeah, a lot of points that it needs to take. Very nice to see, because the more it takes, the more accurate it'll be on every piece of the bed. Well, I guess it's only taking 1 probe at it, not 2, so it just goes 1 time, then moves to the next one. Alright, so we're about halfway in, and you guys can see it's making good progress. So yeah, I'm glad it's only taking 1 point, because it would take probably forever if it did a double probe. Alright, so we got all our offsets, and here we have a note that says to pay attention to the gap, and you can do the offset in the z-axis offset. So let's click on confirm, and this right here where you see -1 is our offset. So let's go ahead and bring our paper in, and it's a little bit tight, so we're going to go up a bit, and you can choose the increments right there. So it's on 0.1 right now, so let's go up 0.1, and now it's too loose. Well, let's choose the 0.01 increment and go down slowly until we feel some drag. All right, that feels pretty good, and yeah, we only needed 0.02 to have the perfect offset. So once you set that, you're pretty much done. You don't have to do anything else, as it remembers all these parameters. And all those numbers there are offsets on the build plate. So you guys can see we're not so perfect, but it is a large plate. We're about 0.5 at the most off here and there, which is quite a bit, but you know, with something this large, it's quite impossible to get it extremely perfect. So this is why it's kind of important to get it as close as possible manually. So yeah, once you're done, you're just gonna go back. It takes you to the main menu. And actually it's going to, looks like, raise up also, confirming that you are finished with that. Alright, so let's take a quick look at the screen. So up here we see it says Neptune 3 Plus, and we got 4 buttons to choose from: prints, prepare, settings, and level. And down here we have the nozzle temperature and the bed temperature. So on print, it's going to read the SD card, and it tells us to plug that in. So once we do, it'll show what's on there. Under prepare, we got move, and this is the 3 choices you got. So you can see how you can home everything in the middle like we did earlier, or each axis. We also have step or release, or you can move each axis separately by clicking this. So under temperature, we got our nozzle, and if you click on it, you can type in what you want. You also have our power button here to turn it off completely. And then our bed temperature, and this is the current stats. And then we got 4 hot buttons for preheating, which is a PLA, ABS, PETG, and TPU. So let's click on PLA again, so it stays at that temperature. And then we have extruder button here. You can use this to load and unload the filament in and out if you want, but you know, since this is direct drive, this is probably not going to be used as much. But yeah, let's go back. We have settings here, which we have quite a few things here to go through. We got languages, and these are all that are available. Temperature settings, so you can preset everything here. Light control, so this printer does have a light. If I turn it on, probably you guys see that. We're gonna leave that off for now as it will mess with our filming fan control. So this turns on the fan, the part's cooling. I'm gonna turn that off. Motor off releases steppers. Filament detector is on and you can turn it off here. Then we got factory settings, about the machine. So let's click on about and we can see here the name, the version, the build volume. And advanced settings, we got that brightness adjustment, which we did earlier, and I turned it down a lot for the camera. You can turn off the sounds if you don't want the little peep sound, but I think I would prefer that. Motor settings, speed settings, and resume printing is on. So I'm glad to see that they have an option to turn this off, because usually in spiralized mode you need this off because it won't print it right. So yeah, very happy to see that. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, for the settings. And then we have the level button, which we went through just a minute ago. So yeah, pretty intuitive and nice display and very responsive. All right, so we're pretty much ready to print. We got the bed all leveled and adjusted. So let's go ahead and put some filament in, and I'm gonna use my own roll here. So we'll use the snippers to cut the filament on an angle so it feeds in easier. So if we look here on the top, we got the spool holder, which the filament will sit in, and then we're gonna run here through the filament detector, and I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a little light that comes on, and then down to our extruder. And so there's an arm here that we push on to release, and now we can push our filament through, so kind of wiggle it around to go in, and then we can manually just push down and purge it. Now you can do it here on the screen, but it's much easier to do that. It's such a short distance here to push it down, and it's quite convenient. And you guys can see we're nice and purged. We're going to grab that out of the way, and we'll get our micro SD card out of the USB adapter, and it is an 8 gig, and it plugs in right here upside down. So now we can click on print, and it looks like we have one file in there called Buddha. So let's click on that, and it's going to ask us to print this model. We're going to confirm, and there we go, it started. And this is the printing screen that we get, and there's even a little preview there. So it is preheating to 60, which is almost there. And there it goes. So I'm going to click on settings here and click adjust, just in case we need to do the offset. Alright, and it looks good, except for we got a little booger there. See if I can cut it off real quick. There we go. But yeah, it was perfect and no adjustment needed. So yeah, if you do it right, there should be no issue at all. And it's printing away pretty quick. So let's go ahead and take a closer look here at our printing screen. So we got the file name there with the preview. We got settings, pause, stop, and then the LED light. Under the preview picture, we got the progress bar and the percentage. It's 1% right now. The time since we started, just 2 minutes. And our Z-axis position, it's at 0.2 right now. The nozzle temperature and the target. The bed temperature and the target. The print speed. And the fan, which is completely off right now, and that's for the parts cooling. So naturally, if you click on pause or stop, that's what it'll do. And the LED light turns on the light. As you guys see, that it's pretty bright. It's a little bit on the cooler side, but still very nice. So let's go to settings. So while you're printing, these are the things that you can do. So you can adjust the nozzle temperature, and these are the increments. You can also load and unload filament. So down here we can see the 3 choices. We're in the filament, so if you wanted to change your filament, you can do that, and also adjust your hot end and bed temperatures. We got speed. You can speed up the whole process or slow it down. And then adjust is going to be our offset. And you guys see our minus 0.98 is there. You can also turn on our filament detector and our LED light from here. And what's cool is we also have resume printing option right here in the menu. So yeah, if you're going to do spiralized, you want to turn that off. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. And if we go back, it's the main menu here. So yeah, overall, I really like the setup. It's quite convenient, and all the main and basic things you need are here. Alright, so far everything was looking really good, and we definitely do have silent steppers as it is pretty quiet. The only time I can kind of hear it is when it's moving fast. But let me go ahead and bring my mic in so you guys can hear it. So yeah, overall not too bad. The fans are a little bit intrusive, but nothing too crazy. So yeah, I would say it's moderately quiet. All right, so our first print is going very well, and we're gonna let it print out, and we'll see how it turns out. All right, so our first print is done, and it took 1 hour and 9 minutes, pretty quick. So we got a choice of return or print again. I'll click return, and that goes back to the main menu. So the bed is completely cooled off. Let's see how easy it comes off. It's stuck on there pretty well, but it does pop off, and we still got the brim on there. But yeah, comes off really easy. And that's what's great about this PEI, is it's pretty effortless. Because when it heats, it sticks so good, and then when it cools off, it's quite easy to pop it off. And this is what our first print looks like. So it looks like a little Buddha here. The bottom looks great. That's the texture of the build plate. So overall, it's very smooth, as you guys can see, and very precise. So since we didn't slice this, I'm not sure about the parameters. It does look like a 0.2 layer height, and it printed all in an hour, so pretty quickly. And yeah, it looks very good on our first print here that came with the machine. So yeah, guys, as you can see, everything works perfect, and we're getting great results right off the bat. So that shows us that everything's adjusted well, and we're good to go with more printing. So let's go to the computer next and slice our own files, and we'll see how those turn out. All right, so here we are at the computer, and I got the SD card plugged in. Let's go ahead and open it up. So this is what we see. We got a user manual in PDF form, and so this is pretty much the exact thing you get in paper form. There we have our machine parameters. So yeah, pretty useful if you want to look at this on the computer. I'll learn all the parts of the printer and how to use everything. So the next folder is software and drivers. So we got ELEGOO Cura for Mac and also Windows. Also a little PDF here of how to get started and use the slicer. And here we have drivers, which you might also need, and looks like they have them for Mac and PC. And here it kind of shows you what it's for. I guess it's connecting with the USB cable through the USB port on the computer. So lots of good, useful things here with PDFs explaining everything. So the next folder is models, and that is the little Buddha we printed in STL form. And then we also have a tool holder, and this explains why there's no tool tray in the printer, as it comes with this that you can print out and put your tools in. And our last folder is a little video of how to get started and assemble the printer directly from ELEGOO. So you might want to watch this to help you out with that. Then we have the G-code file that we printed, which is the Buddha. So let's go ahead and install the software, which since I'm using a Mac, I'm going to use this DMG file. So I'm going to double click it, and it brings this up. So I'm going to take the ELEGOO Cura and drag it to applications. And here you guys can see it's installing, and there we go. It should be there. And in the applications, we're going to see the ELEGOO Cura. Let's go ahead and open it up, and it's going to load up. And this is the start screen. So it says follow these steps. It'll only take a few minutes. Let's get started. I guess we got to agree to some stuff here. So this is 4.8.0. Click next, next, and you can make an account with Ultimaker if you want. I'm going to skip it. So now we're going to add a printer. So we're going to click on non-network printers, and we can see here this is customized to ELEGOO, and we're going to click on the logo, and that's going to open up all of the printers that are available. So we have the 3 Plus. We'll click on that, choose next. So it's going to give me some error codes because I have other Cura files that are on the same computer, and it kind of messes with them. So I'm just going to exit this out. But yeah, pretty much this is what you'll see, which is the build volume. And it's like this box. Let's go ahead and throw something in here, and we'll start with a benchy. And you guys can see how small it is on this build plate. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see better. But if you click on the benchy, you can see these arrows, and this is going to pull up this menu here, which we're on move right now. If you grab the arrows, you can move it around, or you can do it here by typing it in millimeters. We also have scale. Also, you can grab it, make it bigger, or you can type it in here. And rotate. You can move the model in either directions on the 3 axes. So that's pretty much the basic controls there. But more importantly, we're going to go through the parameters here on the top right. So right now we're in normal profile. We're just going to adjust that. So if you click on these little dots, make sure you're on advanced. And we're going to go through a few things here. So 0.2 layer height is good. And if you want more finer resolution, you can try 0.15, 0.16. So everything in quality looks good. So going to shell, everything looks right here. You want to make sure you have 3 wall line counts if you don't. And bottom layers at least 5 or 6, which we have 6 on the top and bottom here. So fill the gaps. You can turn that off if you want. I usually like nowhere, but if you want a more complete print, you click everywhere. So infill density is at 15, should be fine. And the material, 200 on the nozzle and 60 on the bed is good. Print speed at 60. I usually turn that down to 50 for all my test printing. But yeah, you can speed it up and slow down here. And on the initial layer speed, I like to turn this down to 15. And then skirt and brim to 25. So everything looks good here. We're going to enable retractions. It's set for 2.5 millimeters, which is a little high. So let's go ahead and do 1.5 because I think that should be plenty. The retraction speed is at 20 millimeters. I guess that's what this printer needs. Usually it's 40, but you can try either one and see if you get better results. And yeah, if you get stringing, you're gonna bump the retraction up, and if you got no stringing, you can actually go down more, maybe even to 1 millimeter. So everything looks good here. Cooling is good. So under supports, if you click it, you can set all your parameters for that. We're not going to do supports here. And build adhesion is on brim, but I like to do skirt, as brim goes straight to the print. And if you're having a hard time sticking, brim could be good, but skirt just does a few lines around the print and then starts printing the print straight to the build plate. And usually I like 3 lines. And also you do have raft, but that's time consuming and waste material as it builds a whole raft underneath the print. So going down to special modes, we got spiralize mode here. So if we click that, it's going to do spiralize mode, which is a few layers on the bottom and then 1 layer all the way around like a vase mode. And that's pretty much it, guys. So yeah, we should be good to go. So all we got to do is click the slice button, and it says it's going to take 1 hour and 39 minutes. And since we have our SD card plugged in, we can save it straight to there by clicking here, save to removable. And you can also eject it, but we're not going to do that yet. I'm going to double click, clear the build plate, and throw in a calibration cube, and we'll slice it exactly the same way. And that's going to take 33 minutes. So we'll save that also. And now we can inject it, grab our SD card, and print these prints out. So yeah, hopefully guys, this little quick overview was helpful to get you started with the Neptune 3 Plus. Alright, so we got the benchy and the calibration cube printed out, and you guys can see how small they are on this bed. So yeah, pretty excited to print larger models, but let's go ahead and see what we got. We'll start with this benchy. To be honest guys, I was quite impressed with it overall, and you can see how well the layers went down. So yeah, for being such a large bed, it did good. Now, if we flip here to the y-axis, we can see some vibrations, and that is going to be because of this really large plate that moves back and forth. And also I did have my GoPro hooked up to it, but you know, that's not terribly too heavy. But in any case, we still got vibrations here on the y-axis, as you guys can see. So yeah, not perfect, but overall pretty good. And we can also see these here too. It's quite severe, which is kind of interesting. It's ghosting there. So, but as far as the print itself, it turned out good. I was a little bit too close to the bed. We do have a little bit of an elephant foot, but yeah, as far as the walls, pretty good. Great cooling. We got the box there with the slit, and the top, that's nice and round. Yeah, overall a very nice benchy, and the precision seems to be there for sure. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at this cube, and it's still stuck to the build plate. It's completely cold, so look at that, pops right off. And yeah, this PEI sheet is excellent. So on the cube, we're going to be able to see a lot better. And let's start with the bottom. So yeah, we got this finish here. We still have a little bit of an elephant foot, so I need to go up a little more. So for some reason, my slice prints are a little bit more closer. But in any case, we can tune that out. But let's look at the X here. So yeah, very nice. And the layers do sit very even. And if you guys see lines in here, it's just all lighting. Like if I go like this, you can see how smooth it is. So yeah, depending on the lighting is what you're going to see. But yeah, so very accurate and clean on the X. And on the Y, also pretty clean, but you guys see that we got ghosting. So there is some ghosting and some ringing, but yeah, not severe, but it is there, kind of like we saw in the benchy. All our corners are very nice and straight and clean. Here we have the X wall and the Y wall. So on the wall, it's much cleaner, but you can still see vibrations. But yeah, pretty good. And this is the top, which looks perfect. So yeah, overall great start here with the 3 Plus. And I'm going to go ahead and print a few more smaller models and also larger ones, TPU. And also we'll try some ABS and see if we can push the bed to higher temperatures. Alright guys, so these are all the prints that we printed, and there's quite a few of them. And I do have to say, this printer did very well at everything that I threw at it. So we've seen the first 3 prints here up front, and then we got quite a few other ones here. All of them were printed at 0.2 layer height, 200 on the nozzle, and 60 on the bed, except for the ABS. But yeah, let's go ahead and start with this little frog. So this is a pretty fine print, and as you guys can see, it turned out excellent. And yeah, the layers went down very smoothly, and normally around the paws here, things get messy, but as you guys can see, everything looks very clean and precise. Shows that the printer is quite capable at smaller, fine parts. So here we have a Squirtle, and this is supposed to be, I guess, squirrel slash turtle, but somehow I sliced it where it's half of its body, which is kind of weird, but I went ahead and just printed it out. When I saw it, I was like, whatever. This is kind of like a polygon print, and you guys can see it's all very nice and straight. We do have a little bit of vibrations. Other than that, the layers look very nice. And if you guys do see lines, that's mostly discoloration in the filament. And plus the way the lighting hits the print. So pretty good print here. So here's a print that's quite important because it shows us that you need accuracy to have something functional. And this is a gear that does turn, prints out just like this. And this printer did an excellent job as it just spins. And all you gotta do is just hold the middle and then break it loose and it should go. And you guys can see this is smooth as it gets. So yeah, again, very impressive with the accuracy on this printer. So the next print we got here is a shark. Yeah, it looks really nice. You guys can see the layering. So again, all the layers sit really smooth. There's nothing too weird going on. And the way this print prints is there's a lot of pieces that connect as it prints up. So they all do have to stick and then they combine and you get this articulating kind of really cool print. So another thing that's kind of cool about this print is that the mouth is functional. And we'll see if we can break it loose. And look at that, perfect. So yeah, again, this printer is excelling at all of the tests here that we're doing. And even all these teeth are perfectly straight, which is quite impressive because some printers can't even do that right. So here we have something pretty impressive, which is a very large millipede. And as you guys can see, there's a lot of pieces and they're all linked together. And check out all those feet that had to stick to the bed. So I printed this thing like this, pretty much across the whole way. And there was no issues whatsoever. And the layers went down beautifully. And you guys can see the details there. And if we look at the face here up close, you guys can see, very nice. So this filament is not as great as it's some kind of matte filament. And it's a little harder to print. And this print did take about 10 to 12 hours to print. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, it did take a little while. But it is quite large and there's a lot of retractions between the pieces. So, and speaking of retractions, here we have a print called chainmail, and this is quite an incredible kind of print work because there's so much retractions, guys. As you guys can see, it turned out perfect. And what's incredible is everything's stuck to the build plate. You can kind of see the finish there from the bed, and we have no stringing. Yeah, you can only imagine how much retractions there is here. And this is a super cool print and kind of shows what 3D printers are capable of, and I'm usually really impressed from this stuff as it seems like something that would be impossible to print. So yeah, if you want to give your printer a challenge, try printing this chainmail here. So let's check out these wheels here. So these are printed in ABS. They didn't turn out perfect, and that's my fault mostly because I did not preheat the bed hot enough. I started at 90 and then printed on 80, which was a mistake because it cooled off too much and started separating. Really tell, but if I put them together, you can see they're kind of warped. And as it was warping, it was kind of having issues. But yeah, in any case, they're still done and probably still usable maybe. But these are little drift wheels for an RC car. And we did use supports, which should just break off. Let's try that. Okay, so didn't break off perfect, but still pretty good with very minimal cleaning. Try this other one. Yeah, so about the same. So yeah, maybe not perfect for ABS, but it can do it. But then again, you do have to fine tune the temperatures and the parameters to print certain materials. All right, that leaves us with the last 2 models, which we have this astronaut. And what's unique about this print is that it's printed in a glow filament. So if I try to make it dark, maybe you guys can see it's kind of green. Had the recharger there a bit, but yeah, it does glow green, which gets pretty bright at night in the darkness. So yeah, very cool filament. And what's impressive about this print, this is all that sticks to the build plate. There's these little ridges here, and it's stuck on great and printed out the whole thing with no issues. I don't know if you guys can see on this light colored, the layering, but as you can see, it's very smooth and I would say practically perfect. Yeah. And actually, guys, we got 2 more prints, which are both rockets, which I almost missed this one here. And this is actually printed in TPU, and it is in spiralized mode. So we got a few layers on the bottom and then just 1 layer on the top. And you guys can see that it is TPU. So Yeah, pretty cool that you can print TPU even in spiralized mode. There was no issues, pushes it out just fine as it is a direct drive. Now, one thing I do want to show you guys after you see this really nice clean lines is the very top here. Hopefully we're in focus, but there's a little bit of blobbing there, and this is me turning on the power recovery mode. So you do need to turn it off when you do spiralized mode, as it will blob up like that. So that's me turning it on and then turning it off right away. So kind of a hard thing to see, but yeah. That's one great thing about this printer, as it does have the power recovery toggle on and off in the settings, and even accessible while you're printing. So yeah, TPU, no problems for this printer. And for the last print, we have a rocket plane, and I guess it's like a airplane slash rocket, and it is still stuck to the build plate. So I think I do need to pry it off. So we're gonna take all these guys off. Hopefully I won't destroy it trying to get it off here. Okay, I'm putting a crease in it already. But yeah, as you guys can see, it's stuck really well. So let's see how easy it comes off. I'm gonna just try to flex it here. And look at that, it just pops right up. And just like that, popped right off. So yeah, I really love this build plate. So this is a PEI sheet. Obviously it's very nice and works great for everything. And the filament that I used on this rocket plane is really gummy. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you get like more of a gummy filament, and this is one of them where it's kind of stubborn and sticks very well, and actually leaves a residue behind, which it kind of did here a little bit, but it comes right off actually really easily. So yeah, PEI for the win for sure as far as build plate goes. So here we can see the bottom, very nice. So this is also spiralized mode. We got a few layers on the bottom and then one layer all the way to the top. And this is 400 millimeters tall, the full height that this printer can print. And if we look closer here, you guys can see how well it did, and it's very smooth all the way up. So yeah, very nice and consistent all the way to the top. We do have a little bit of inconsistencies as we go up. I can kind of feel them, and even the very tip didn't melt, which is pretty incredible. And this is the back side here. You can see it has like a little, I guess, landing gear, so it is a plane that you can land. But in any case, guys, I am pretty impressed with this printer, and I think it does very well with everything you throw at it. And another thing I need to mention is, without having the insulation on the bottom, I'm quite impressed of how quickly it gets the temperature, and I think the 500 watt power supply has everything to do with that. I love the large build volume, pretty much conquer anything with 320 by 320 and 400 tall. The tethered dual Z-axis leads are great. I love how they included these supports in the back, makes it very stable on top. The spool holder is quite convenient with the filament detector to the direct drive extruder. Very handy little LCD screen that's portable. The 49-point mesh out of bed leveling works extremely well and is very accurate from one end to the other. Also, the pretty cool LED light here that comes from the top down. And it's reasonably quiet overall, except for some fan noise. So yeah, as you can see, the printer is very capable, and it offers a lot of value with everything you get. So I think ELEGOO did a great job, as what they did is just upsize the Neptune Pro, and now we have the Plus. Now they do have one more larger than this, which is called the Max, I think, and I should be able to get my hands on one soon. So yeah, that will be quite interesting. So if you guys are interested in this printer, I'm gonna have some links in the description. Check it out. And if you did enjoy this video, then hit that like button. Also check out the Neptune 3 Pro that I reviewed. That printer did very well. And also check out my 3D printing playlist. I'm sure you'll find something interesting there. And if you guys are not subscribed to my new channel called Just Print, where I only do 3D printing, check that out. And if you did make it to the end, I really do appreciate it. Thumbs up to you. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.